Hey everyone and welcome. Today, we're diving into a really powerful tool that can take your marketing from a game of chance to, well, a science of actual growth. And this is especially true in the world of finance. So let's start with a question. In a market where every single click costs you real money and every customer is hard-won, are you just guessing or do you actually know what's going to work? It's a massive risk to just go with a hunch, especially in such a competitive and compliance-heavy space. So, how do you find some certainty? Well, the answer is this beautifully simple but incredibly powerful idea, A/B testing. This is how you stop guessing and you start knowing. At its core, it's just a simple, controlled experiment. You take something, an ad, an email, whatever, and you test one change to see if it makes things better. No opinions, no debates, just data. Okay, so let's dive into how this actually works. Every single test has two sides. You've got version A, which we call the control. That's what you're already doing. It's your baseline. Then you have version B, the variant. This is your new idea. Now here is the absolutely crucial part. You only change one single thing in version B. That way you can be 100% sure that that one change is what caused any difference in performance. And you can see why this is so critical in finance, right? We're talking about getting better results from really expensive ad campaigns, stopping people from bailing on a loan application halfway through, and making sure your messaging is not just effective, but also compliant. It's all about precision. All right, that's enough theory. Honestly, the best way to get a feel for the power of A/B testing is to just see it in action. So let's walk through 4 real-world examples from financial services. So for our first test, we're looking at an email campaign for personal loans. The team had a theory, a hypothesis. What if we created a sense of urgency in the subject line? Would more people open the email? So here was the test. The control, version A, is fine. It's pretty standard. But look at the variant, version B. It adds 2 really powerful psychological triggers, pre-approved and a deadline. It immediately feels more personal and a lot more time-sensitive. And what were the results? A massive 24% lift in open rates and a 19% lift in click rates. So yeah, the hypothesis was totally right. But, and this is what's so fascinating, look at that last bar, a 0% lift in actual loan applications. This is such an important lesson. You have to measure the entire funnel. Getting more people to open the door doesn't automatically mean you'll get more customers. Okay, let's move on to test number 2. This time, we're on a credit card landing page. The hypothesis? All that complex financial jargon was just scaring people away, and that simpler, benefit-focused language would work way better. And wow, you can see the difference right away. The control is just full of industry speak like low-interest APR and maximum flexibility. The variant, though, it just gets straight to the point with 3 simple things the customer actually wants. And the impact was just staggering. A 40% increase in completed applications. This is such a brilliant example of how clarity and direct value will almost always beat complex jargon. That is a huge, huge win. Test number 3 tackles a super common problem, people who start a loan application but just never finish it. The team believed that if they could just show users where they were in the process, it might reduce that friction. So this was a really simple user experience tweak. Version A is just the plain old form, but version B adds that little visual cue, step 1 of 4. It seems so small, doesn't it? But what it does is it sets expectations and it manages the user's perception of how much work is left. And the result? A 38% decrease in people abandoning the form between step 1 and step 2. Just by managing those expectations, they kept users engaged and moving forward. It's a fantastic reminder that tiny UX changes can have absolutely massive results. Okay, for our final case study, we're looking at retargeting ads for auto loan refinancing. The hypothesis here is that social proof, a real customer story, is way more powerful than just some generic marketing message. And just look at the difference. The control is a straightforward, kind of boring call to action, but the variant uses a quote from a real person with a specific savings number and even a location. It just feels so much more authentic and trustworthy. And this approach paid off in 2 big ways. Not only did the click-through rate jump by 30%, but the cost to get each application actually dropped by 15%. So it wasn't just more effective, it was more efficient. I mean, that's pretty much a marketer's dream scenario. So these examples are super inspiring, right? But how do you actually do this yourself and run a good test? Let's get into the playbook and turn this into a process you can actually use. To run a really solid test, these 6 things are totally non-negotiable. First, you need a clear, if we do this, then this will happen hypothesis. Then, you have to randomly show people the different versions to avoid any bias. Like we said before, and this is a big one, only test one variable at a time. And of course, you need enough people in your test for the results to be meaningful, a clear goal for what success looks like, and you need to run it long enough to even out any weird daily spikes or dips. Now, if you want to take it to the next level, here are a few pro tips. Using pre-screened audiences can let you get really personal. You can even test different ways of showing those legal disclosures to improve transparency. And always segment your results. What works for one group of customers might totally fail for another. And finally, just a quick word of caution. You really want to avoid these common traps. Testing a bunch of things at once just muddies the water. Stopping the test the second you see a good result can give you a false positive. And please, never make a decision based on your gut. You have to wait for statistical significance. That's the math that proves your results weren't just a random fluke. When it's all said and done, it really comes down to this philosophy. A/B testing isn't some one-off project. It's a culture, a way of thinking about continuous learning and improvement. It's about making every single experiment count. So that really just leaves one last question for you. Think about your own work, your own emails, your ads, your landing pages. What is the one big assumption that you've just been running with? And how soon can you put it to the test?